Hello everyone.
Welcome to the Spirit Lounge podcast with me, David.
And me, Glenda.
And we are psychic mediums from both sides of the pond.
I'm in Australia.
And I'm in the UK.
And we're joining forces to discuss and talk about the world of psychics, mediumship, and all things spiritual. We might even throw some random life topics in there too.
So come with us now on our podcast journey. Let's see what's happening in the Spirit Lounge for today's episode. Well, hello, lovely listeners. Thank you for joining us in the Spirit Lounge again today. I'm here with my glamorous co-host over here, Miss Glenda. Hello, Miss Glenda. How are you doing?
Hello, David. Hello. How are you? Good.
Good.
I'm excited for this week.
I know. Yeah. Very excited. So, people, this is a very special episode because this is our first episode where we're inviting a very special guest to join us here today. And we have the fabulous, who we call, me and Glenda call, our fairy godfather, Bill Hughes Psychic Medium. Welcome to the podcast, Bill.
Thank you very much. Hello, guys. How are you?
All good. All
welcome.
Good. How are you?
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Marvelous.
We're excited to have you. We're so excited. We love you, Bill.
Oh, let's buckle up, buttercups.
That's it. So are you ready for our shenanigans?
Let's have them.
All right.
Marvelous.
So,
let's go.
Bill, you're not only a widely respected medium, not only for your integrity, your ethos, and your compassion in mediumship, but you've also been a cherished friend and mentor and brother to both David and I. Your guidance has made a profound impact on our lives. And this is like, I have had to write this down because I have to share it with everyone. And we're very grateful for the wisdom that you share with David and I. So in saying that, given your exceptional reputation, what distinguishes your approach to mediumship and what practices do you follow to consistently uphold such a high standard in your work?
Righty. Now, there's a question to get started.
It's deep end.
Welcome abroad.
You could have told me you was writing an essay before we were getting off the starting block. Oh, bless you. Well, listen, first of all, we have formed such a fantastic friendship. And, you know, I honour you both like brother and sister. You know, you're my tribe. We're each other's tribe. And I think that that's the kind of ethos that I kind of like move forward with regards to the approach of spiritual work and surrounding yourself with spiritual people also. So it's not exceptional. It's just my own mix. It's my own mix and my own blend with spirit. And I feel that spirit very much heavily guide us all as individuals and mould and shape us to be the best representative that we can be for the spirit world. So I feel that in answer to your question, your essay of a question there, Glenda, it's really just placing a sense of trust and understanding with spirit and allowing them to sculpt and mould you to be the person that they feel will be the best form of representation for them whilst you're working.
Oh, that is absolutely beautiful. And, you know, Bill, you just stand out. You really do. If I can say, I've come across a handful of amazing mediums. You are one of them. You are just that caliber, and you really put in the work. I know that you've been doing this for a very long time, and we respect you. And again, it is very unusual for mediums to form very close friendships within circles. I find that, or have found that, very hard to do in the past. But the three of us have clicked unbelievably, don't you think?
Absolutely. And as I said, I think it's because you find your tribe. And when we go through this process, let's not forget it's very similar to any type of friendship process that you would have going throughout life here. You know, kind of like trying to put personal and spiritual or differentiate them. So you're always on your own spiritual pathway and journey. You're going to come across and meet individuals that you're going to gel with at specific points, but that doesn't mean to say that they're always going to stay. And that's absolutely fine, because everybody's got their own journey, they've got their own pathway. And you made reference in a previous podcast with regards to that train journey. So some people are going to get on at certain stops and they're going to enjoy the journey with you to a certain point, and then they're going to get off. And it's no different, is it? But I feel that, you know, the friendships that we've formed, the bonds that we have, will continue to just take that and evolve with it throughout this spiritual and life's journey. Because I don't feel, or I don't think that there will ever be a point where we would need to disengage from one another. It just feels right.
I agree. What do you think, David? Yeah.
No, absolutely agree. And just take that a step further as well, Bill. Because we've worked together many times, and we've got quite a few more shows coming up this year as well. But when you are working with other mediums, maybe we should put this other way around. What would you look for in another medium before working with them? Because we've had discussion before about working with people that we resonate with, that we can level with on some kind of way. So what do you look for in other mediums yourself when working with them?
I think it's more of a mirror-like image. So morally, do they sit within the same morals, values and understandings as yourself? Personalities, is there a blend of personality? Because at the end of the day, you don't want it to be a clash of personality. And I feel that would almost fall under the header of ego there as well. And are they authentic? Have they put in the work? Do they fully understand what mediumship is all about? That being said, and just put that to one side for a minute, would I discount working with somebody that's new onto the circuit? No, I wouldn't, because at the end of the day, we've got to help one another grow, haven't we?
Yeah.
So it's all about really just taking chances, but also trusting that spirit are leading you and guiding you to certain individuals. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you share a platform with, because you're being put there for a reason and a purpose. And that reason and purpose is to be able to bring through comfort of message and love and connection with people's past loved ones, family members and friends. But there's also an essence to it where you have to make sure that there is a match, because you don't want to rock up to a demonstration of mediumship where there's an imbalance and you just don't feel that you can work with somebody. So I always just place an element of trust with spirit there and understand that they will take me to whom it is that I should be working or sharing a platform with. Hope that answers your question.
No, it does. Thank you. Yeah, that definitely. And people, by the way, I was that new person because Bill had been stalking me on Facebook. No, it wasn't really.
You don't know who's watching.
You don't know who's watching. But no, but honestly, that is how it came about, though. And obviously, I was invited onto Bill's collective consciousness, and then Bill took me out on the platform. So no, I definitely get what you're saying. Yes. And if I'm that new person, I'd like to think that, sometimes people are taking a chance on if something's seen in somebody, is to help pull it out of them, not dismiss it as some would.
Oh, absolutely.
But again, it comes back to the ego part of it as well, which is a whole other topic. But
it does. You're right in what you're saying, and I know that from my own journey, I'm very conscious that when I first stepped out there was maybe just one or two mediums that were prepared to offer me that hand of support and bring me out onto platform. And not everybody's in that position where they've got somebody that will stand by their side and do that. So this is all about us being a spiritual community and being there for one another and supporting one another. So for me, that sits really, really quite close to my heart, because nobody should be going through this process or this journey where they don't feel supported or that they've not got a backbone.
No, I agree.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that is so hard when you start on this journey, because I know how I felt. I'm not going to make this about me. I'm just very conscious about not making this about me, like David says. It's, that when you start this journey, you can be really lonely. It can be really isolating because of what's opening up for you, trying to understand what's happening, not having someone to ask what is this normal. So to have people in your corner is very helpful, so.
No, I agree. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So with that, if you think of that as a challenge, Bill, have there been other moments in your mediumship where you felt challenged and maybe even felt like stepping away from it?
Yeah. Because the flip side of the coin is that you will always be judged. I've just spoken and touched on the spiritual community. And not everybody within our spiritual community is all love and light and picking daisies and dancing around to flute music. So you're always going to have the select few that are going to want to judge, that are going to want to condemn, that are going to want to pull apart your mediumship because they feel that it's their God-given right. I've opened up a right can of worms here now. It'll be like, Bill Hughes.
Bill, go on, keep going.
But you know what? I feel it's really important to talk about this.
Yeah.
It is. And this is what really we're about. Keeping it real.
Absolutely. So, yes, there have been times where I've been judged and I've been watched and I've been criticised. And I'm absolutely fine with that, because I feel honoured that you want to come into my space and pull me apart. And all the time that you're doing that, you know what, you're leaving somebody else alone.
Yeah. But it's a massive reflection of themselves at the end of the day. And what they're lacking.
At the end of the day, like I've said, spiritual community, we should all be there for one another. We should all be there to support one another. We should all be there to help raise and push one another up, not pull each other apart and try to drag individuals back. And I learned very early on when I stepped out into a field of service. Look, we're psychic, right? At the end of the day, as well as being mediums, you can pick up on neggy vibes, and you know and you trust and you understand that there's not always good intention with those that present a fantastic, huge smile. So I learned very on in the early days of who was right for me and who I wanted within my world. And you know what, if that sounds egotistical, then so be it, but I'm just keeping it real and I'm just keeping it raw. So I very quickly learned to disassociate and to step to one side, not fall into the habit that we see so often, where there is this thrust of abuse and exchange of words that goes on via social media, or the telltale tits and the back talking and the backstabbing that goes on within the community. For me, I just want to go to the venue. I want to go there with the intent of being able to unite the two worlds, our physical and the unseen. Do what I need to do for spirit and then leave. And I think that that's the onus that everybody has to take if they want to be perceived as a professional medium.
Absolutely. Totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And if we focus on the professional medium, what do you believe is the most misunderstood aspect of mediumship, and how do you wish people understood this more?
We were talking about this, weren't we, just before we started the recording button, with regards to a medium, a mediumship, and a psychic as well. So there's those two distinguishing facts here that people kind of like misinterpret or misunderstand. So for those that are maybe listening to the podcast that have absolutely no concept or idea, mediumship is where we are connecting the two worlds, where we are having that conversation and that communication with the spirit world. These are spirit-led, guided messages that we are sharing. Whereas a psychic will blend in with the energy of another, and they will go with a sense and a feeling of what it is that they want to talk and connect and converse with. So I feel that that's very highly misunderstood or misinterpreted. And I feel that that is something that, you know, people have got to kind of like get the concept correct within their own understandings and mindset.
Yeah, it's so important, that one there.
Agree, absolutely, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if I can ask, Bill, we never asked you your backstory. What age did you start doing this? What brought you out of your little shell to get on this journey of being a medium?
Oh, right. Well, for me, I think the process started late 30s, early 40s. I know I only look 21 yet, but there you go. Yeah, it was late 30s, early 40s. It was life-changing circumstance that kind of like put me into a position of going deeper into my own self and doing self-repair to start off with, but also trusting the process where I was allowing spirit to guide and take me to where I needed to be. I mean, I'd always been very conscious of spirit from around about the age of 11 years when my own dad passed to spirit. But did I do anything with it? No, I didn't. I just learned more about spiritualism per se, about the difference of our worlds. And it wasn't, as I say, until I'd got into my late 30s, early 40s, and there were changes that were happening personally around me, that I then started to embrace and embark and move forwards with my own spiritual journey.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And your sister also, Sharon Hughes, which is a fantastic, phenomenal tarot card reader. I've had a reading with Sharon. She's so amazing. She's very intuitive as well. And she's, you know, your sibling. Is there any other one in your family that are very intuitive?
I've got two brothers as well. I think we've all got some type of intuition. We've all got some type of understanding. My oldest brother, he's probably the most intuitive out of all of us put together, but he goes against it. He's just not interested. He doesn't want to know whether or not that's a fear element. Who knows? But look, that's his choice. He doesn't want to expand on that, and we have to respect that. But I think as a family, you know, I've also got a cousin, Lorraine Francois. She's a serving medium as well. And I think that that's kind of like filtered through from our paternal side of the family, because my father come from Romany travelling routes, gypsy backgrounds.
Gypsies,
and you know, there's always
yeah.
that perception that gypsies are fortune tellers and everything else that's thrown in with it. But I feel that you know, that's filtered through from dad's side of the family. My grandmother, she used to read tea leaves. my grandmother lived in a house, and as a child I was so fearful of walking past the first bedroom at the top of the stairs because there was activity in there. It just didn't feel right, so there was always conversations from dad's side of the family with regards to an awareness of the unseen world, psychic awareness, as well as medium mystic awareness, whereas from mum's side of the family that was always very much a closed book. But that being said, my mum was a fantastic reader in her own right, with regards to if somebody walked in through the front door for the first time, she'd have them sussed without them even opening their mouth and saying words. So I don't know, maybe she's kind of like thrown a little bit of that into the pot and the mix and the blend, and we've taken it from both sides. Who knows? That's just my perception on things, really.
Oh, I love it. That's so cool. And that I'm taking over all the questioning. David, do you want to say something? Because I'm just going to take over here.
You used the word twice there. You used the word fear. And I've been asked this quite recently as well, by other people who don't necessarily do the work. And so the question is, did you ever feel a sense of fear when you first started connecting to spirit or not? Because I know it's different for everybody. I didn't feel any fear. It never scared me. But was there any fear? Not when you were a child, but when you first started opening up, as you said, in your later years. Was there any fear there about spirit?
I think that fear is quite a strong word to use, because there's always going to be an element of doubt coming in and connecting with fear at the same time, if that makes sense. Did I fear spirit? No, I didn't fear spirit. Why would I fear spirit when you're connecting to past loved ones that are from your family that are stepping forward to help you during the process? Because let's be real, they didn't hurt you while they were here, so they're not going to do anything from the other side, are they? There was always that element of fear of what it was that I had seen that had been broadcast through movies and television, where you think like the lights are going to go dim, pictures are going to come flying off the walls, the cupboards are going to open, the knives are going to come out and like undirected at you, because that is a misinterpretation of the spirit world. I'm not saying that things like that don't happen, right? But when I'm working with spirit, or when I was first developing with spirit, was I fearful of them? No, I wasn't. I think that I just had that perception in the back of my mind of what it was that I'd been exposed to through the television, that kind of like blinkers people's views and perceptions of the spirit world.
Yeah, because I always say there's nothing scary in it. Because my dad used to say to me, "Can't you do anything less scary?" It's not nothing scary, only because he doesn't understand it. But there's nothing scary to it. So it's interesting to find out other people's experiences with that as well.
Yeah, because you also did a lot of work around the paranormal things. You did some recordings I remember with Richard, and you did some you're very tapped in with that sort of stuff too. Like, I know that you've gone and stayed in motel rooms, and you can fill us in there.
I've always had an interest in paranormal activity, and I would love at some point for spirit to take me in that direction, to connect in and do a little bit more work around that, because as David just rightly said, there is a lot of fear base, and they're not necessarily trying to scare people when it's perceived as paranormal activity. They're wanting to make communication. They're wanting to talk. They're wanting to draw your attention. And there is a reason behind that. So what is it? Why do you want us here? So I'd like to delve into that a little bit more deeper. Yeah, I've been to hotels where I've been put up in the most haunted room of the house, so to speak. And did it faze me? No, it didn't really. I remember I was sat in one room, and I was sat on the bed and I was getting changed and ready for a demonstration of mediumship. And I heard this creaking noise, and it was like, "Arr," and then, and I looked around the corner because my other half was in the bathroom, and said to her, "What do you want?" And she was like, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Did you just hear that?" And she was like, "No, what?" And then when I looked into the corner of the room that we were staying in, the wardrobe door had opened up and had hit the radiator and had made that thudding noise. So I politely said, if you think that you're going to be doing that tonight, you've got another thing coming. And that was it. Clearance. Simple as that. It was, I'm in control. I know you're here. I don't really want to get involved in that this evening because my mind is elsewhere with regards to what I was just about to embark on. And I slept like a baby that night with no disturbances. Yeah. But apparently previous guests have had their bed shaken. The pictures have come off of the wall.
Oh, I wouldn't want to hear that.
Again, yeah, but it's all about boundaries with spirit. We have boundaries with people here, and we have to create boundaries with spirit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
If I was there with a different purpose to investigate why there was that type of activity in the room, then yes, I would be encouraging them to maybe do what they did, just to give us evidence and to provide us with an understanding that there is life after life.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mentioned there, Bill, about sitting on your bed getting ready. Yeah. How do you prepare yourself for a demonstration? Because there'll be developing mediums listening to this, or developing platform mediums listening to this, who might want a little bit of insight or advice. So how do you prepare yourself for a demonstration?
Now, I'm gonna talk about it in two different ways, okay? Because it's interesting that you said that there may be developing mediums that are now listening, okay? So back in the early days, and I'm sure we've all been through a similar type of process, I would sit within the power, within the silence, and I would be connecting to spirit. I would play soft, gentle, meditative music to help get me focused and into the zone. All of the tools that it was that maybe I had been taught from my mentors with regards to getting that preparation process and the mindset still, and the chitter chatter of your everyday personal life being pushed to one side so that you've got that clear sense of clarity to connect with spirit. I feel and I find now that as I've evolved throughout my own awareness and connection with spirit, that you know yourself, David, there's times where we're going to a demo and it's an hour and a half, it's 2 hours away, we've got to join a motorway, there's been an accident, there's been a traffic diversion. Listen, I don't have time for none of that. Now it's literally, I'm ready to work, let's go. It's as quick as that. And that's what I'm in the process of teaching with my own students at this moment in time. We've gone through the process, the early days, where we're preparing ourselves, we're ready, we're listening to music, we're silencing our mind, we're placing that stillness, we're sending out those messages to the spirit world, we're ready to work. It's not always going to be like that, as you know. Sometimes you're going to get literally to a venue and you've got a minute to spare. Yeah. You can't be putting on meditation music. You can't be sitting there, for 10 minutes, 15, half an hour prior. You just don't have that time. So now it's as quick as that. Right, I'm ready to work. 9 times out of 10, I'll walk into a venue, I'll walk into a church, I'll walk into a centre. I've got a couple of minutes and I will just get a sense and a feel and a vibe of the room. And all I'll do with my own awareness is I will just send out what I perceive to be a beautiful white light that I feel within that room around all of those people. It's almost like a bubble. And what that bubble does is it just pulls them to me. And that's enough. And then I'm just ready to go. I'm like, okay, right, let's go.
It's
So I hope that
fantastic.
answers your question.
Yeah.
No, it does, definitely.
Yeah. Do you still get nervous stepping out and doing this sort of stuff after all these years?
Yes, 100%. I feel sick. If I'm lucky enough to get to a venue where there's plenty of times or plenty of time before the dem, that's probably for me not the most ideal, because then I've got time to mull over it and overthink it, as we all do. Okay, and then I'm building up. I'm building up that apprehension. I just don't like it. So, yeah, I always feel physically sick before every dem. I'll always pace, as David knows, and yourself, Glinda, prior to the dem that we've done at Littleport together, I'm pacing up and down. I'm walking around because I just can't stand still. I just need to keep myself active and just, just sit within the essence of where I'm at and just get ready to go for it. But yeah, I always feel sick. And I think that's because we care.
Yeah.
We're empathic. Yeah. We don't want to get it wrong. And again, that's probably perceived as a bit egotistical, okay? But you've got to have a certain element of ego in order to be able to stand up on a platform. We do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I would say. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, it does.
Do you still have fears around your work? Is there any fears that you have?
I think the biggest thing for any medium would be that you don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah.
You don't want to get it wrong. And why do you not want to? I don't know why I'm getting tongue-tied. It's like, hold on a minute. Step back. I'm actually living my earthly life here. I'm not ready to work.
You're being inspired, maybe, Bill.
Look, we don't want to get it wrong, because at the end of the day, we are dealing with such a sensitive connection. Okay, this is somebody's loved one. This is somebody's friend. This is somebody's relative. And you don't want to get it wrong. You want to be able to give them as much detail as you possibly can about that communicator that you're working with. But I think equally, what we have to understand is that, the information that it is that we're getting at the time that we're delivering our message to the recipient is that spirit will always give you what you need or what they need to hear during that message. It would be phenomenal to be able to give the most amazing details in every single message that you deliver, but that's not always going to happen. And that's because we are not in control. So we kind of like structure our own selves with regards to what we believe a reading should consist of, or how it should be delivered. And we have to stop and we have to remember and remind ourselves that we're not in control. It's spirit. They're going to give you what it is that recipient needs to hear, not wants to hear, because again, there's that perception with psychic and mediumistic. You're going to get people that are going to come to a reading where they're going to hang on to every single tiny little word and detail that it is that you share. They want to know what's going to happen to them, what's around the corner. I'm not the right medium for you there, I'm afraid, my friend, because I'm not a fortune teller. I connect with spirit. And I'm led by spirit to give you what you need to hear. If you want to know your future, go and see somebody that can read and deliver that for you in a completely different context, which is invariably psychic, as we know.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, and talk about the ego there. Me and Glenda discussed this on the previous episode, that I don't think there's anything wrong with that type of ego where we don't want to get it wrong.
Yes.
Because like in any job that you do, if you're working for a company or whatever, you always want to do the best at your job that you can do. Yes. And I think when we talk about the ego, we need to look at it in two different ways. You've got the ego in the sense of, I'm going to smash this and I'm so fabulous and I'm always going to get it right and I'm always right. That's the more, I call it more negative side of the ego.
Yes.
But I think the ego that we're talking about here, I think
It's healthy.
It's
a
healthy.
healthy.
Yeah.
Because, as you say, we want to get it right for the right reasons, but also I think it keeps us in check. It allows us to keep checking ourselves and thinking, oh, maybe I could have done a bit better on that dem or in that reading, or next time I can maybe change that. And I think that's a positive thing, because that keeps us constantly developing and constantly keeps us on our toes, and we don't take things for granted. And the word that we always use, we don't get complacent in that sense, because we're always thinking, oh, I could have done better, or maybe I should have said it differently, or been a bit clearer here, a bit clearer there, rather than, oh, I'm always clear, I'm always right, I didn't get that wrong, those kind of things. So I think it's really important for you to say that as well, is that it's because we do care. That's why we're doing it, really.
There's a terminology I like to use, which is the purity of your soul. The purity of your soul. If you're working with a pure soul and that pure soul intention, then we could kind of like differentiate that somewhat from the bigger egotistical sense of the matter.
Absolutely. Because we need to be able to reflect on our work. So my next question to you is, if you were, how would you, okay, within our work, there is sometimes we can do a reading and you go, that was absolute bollocks, like I could have done better. And then you kind of go, well, what went wrong there? Or do you believe that it is sometimes the person that's sitting in front of you? Do you believe it's spirit, the whole three connection? Because some readings you can do, you just smash it. And then the next time you do a reading, you go, that was shit. So what's your take on that, Bill?
I think that you're always going to be faced with situations where you're not going to make the strongest connection. And yes, I do feel that you have to take into account the sitter that you have with you at that particular time. When we publicly dem, you're always going to have somebody that's in the congregation that's going to have the arms folded, that have been dragged there. They don't want to be there. They want to push the boundaries. They want to stretch you. They want to question you. And that's absolutely fine. I'm quite happy to go with that and work with that type of individual. Not that I want to, but if spirit are going to take me there to do so, then so be it. But I'm not there to make somebody believe. I'm there to share what it is that spirit are giving me at that particular moment in time. Yes, people's energies are not going to match yours when they're coming for a reading, Glenda. And that can also throw obstacles into the matter at the same time.
Yeah.
Look, I think I just touched on it a minute ago. If you work within the purity of your own soul and the soul of spirit, and you give what it is that you've got, you can't ask anything more or less. If you're connecting with somebody where you don't feel that moving forward you're able to give them content or structure and it just doesn't feel right, disconnect. Tell them, I'm sorry, I can't read for you. And don't be frightened to do that, because again, that's part of your own learning process and a learning curve to take forward anyways. 9 times out of 10, people that come to see you for a reading, or they come to watch you for a demonstration mediumship, are always believers anyways, so they're going to be quite open-minded. But I would always say that before you open up any dem of mediumship or a private reading, explain the process, explain how you work, explain how you connect to spirit, explain that you are a medium, that you're not a magician, that you might not be able to connect with Uncle Albert, who it is that they had in their mindset that they wanted to hear from on that particular day or within that particular reading. Because let's face it, we know as working mediums that when that bus pulls in behind us at the spiritual bus stop, whoever it is that gets off of that bus first is meant to be the person to deliver the message that they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
That's it. How have you handled being up on stage, someone in the audience that's been a bit of a dick?
I had somebody who challenged me once
Mm.
before.
Tell us.
I had a
Tell us,
gentleman
Bill.
who challenged me. How he was really negative. He was getting a bit loud. He was getting a bit, I can't use that word, but look, let's just put it this way. He was being like what David said. And he was very vocal, and he kept calling out, "Oh, how do you see this?" or "How do you know that?" And I was saying to Spirit, just silence him, just keep him away, because there were people there that had come for the evening that wanted to hear from loved ones. And at one point, it just got me. It got my goat. It
Got up your
my
goat.
right? And he said, "How can you see something that's not there, that nobody else can see?" So I said to him, "Sir," I said, "do you breathe air?" He said, "Yes, I do." I said, "Do you see it?" He said, "No, I didn't." I said, "Well, there you go. There's your answer." Similar type of circumstance, just in a completely different context. And he went, "Pshoo."
Love it.
Fabulous. Love that. I might use that one in case.
Yeah, you
Put it in the
write that
filing
one
cabinet.
down.
Put that in
That's it,
put the filing
David.
cabinet. That's it. And on the opposite of that, Bill, are you able to share any particular more poignant moments you've had with either a reading or a public demonstration, without giving anyone's personal details away too much, but any circumstances that come to mind which are more of a positive thing you've experienced whilst on platform?
Well, a positive, but also a boundary pusher as well. Because we know, right, that as we evolve through this process, that we don't want to become complacent. We constantly ask Spirit to push the boundaries and to give us something different to be working with, so that we can continue to grow within our own awareness and understanding of our own mediumship qualities and abilities. I just got to be very careful the way that I put this across, because I don't want to share somebody's information too publicly. But I was doing a dem, and I was presented with a beautiful young lady that connected with me from Spirit side. I said to Spirit, "Are we really going there? Because this was a murder. This young lady's life had been taken through the hands of another." And I delivered the information. I trusted the process. I trusted what Spirit and she shared with me on that particular evening. And it wasn't until the end of the night, after the dem had finished, that the recipient who I connected with came up and showed me. She said, "Was this a young lady that you connected with?" I said, "Absolutely." I described her what she looked like, and she just wanted to verify it. And then she then divulged that this had been a high-profile murder case that had been covered quite publicly in newspapers and television. So that for me was like a wow moment. Thank you so much, Spirit, for placing such an element of trust in me to be able to connect this young lady to a family member and work in the context of a completely different awareness and understanding. So it was almost like they were like, "Here you go, follow our lead. We don't want you to become complacent. We want you to work with something different, and we're going to give you a challenge and see how you handle it and you deliver that." Because let's not forget, when it's public as well, there's only a certain element of information that you or we should be sharing, because it's sensitive. You can imagine somebody's life's been taken through the hands of another. You don't want to give all the gory details. If you're seeing it, you're sensing it, you're feeling it, you're understanding it, you've got to be very, very forward thinking within your own mindset and your own world of how you're going to convey that and get the point across without giving away too much sensitivity or causing upset.
Absolutely, yeah. That's been important to say, because not everyone has that awareness. And I've seen well-known mediums live on stage doing the complete opposite and describing every single bit of gory detail.
You don't
which
need
is
to
not
do.
is not nice to view, because you put yourself in the recipient's shoes, thinking, I wouldn't want to be in a public platform in a theatre having that described to me. But yeah, it's really important to state that as well. So developing mediums are also aware of that, so they start off on the right foot rather than the wrong foot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think for any developing medium that is maybe just stepping out onto platform now as well, I think one of the things to be very conscious of is that spirit it's almost like building blocks that we're given as we go through this process. So we'll be given very standard, basic building blocks at the start of our journey, and then spirit will continuously place different blocks upon as you work forwards and you move forwards and you grow. So you'll get to a point where you think to yourself, oh, this is great because I'm comfortable and I think I know everything that I need to know with regards to mediumship. And then they'll go, wallop, have some of that. Now let's see how you deal with that one, sunshine. So they're always constantly giving you little bits of extra, whether or not it's that they're working maybe on a clear sense that you've not particularly felt a great connection with. And then all of a sudden, clairaudiently, you're starting to hear things, whereas you never did before. So it's almost like it's a 50-50 give and take where spirit are concerned. This is what we're giving you. These are your starting blocks. Once you've mastered that and you can demonstrate and you can illustrate to us that you've done so, then you can have a little bit more. And then a little bit more. And that will continue throughout all of our lives, because I love the fact that spirit will always play something with us which is new and which is different, and that we learn and we grow from that.
Yeah,
I agree.
Absolutely. And as mediumship continues to evolve, what changes would you like to see in the field, and how can we ensure its integrity and growth?
Again, excuse me. Again, I would like to see that there is a sense of universal connection with all light workers, mediums, psychics, healers, however you want to title oneself or perceive them to be. I'd like there to be a universal sense of love and understanding with regards to support. I think that we are now in times where mediumship is evolving massively, hugely. You know, no longer do people just go to church. We've got centres that are opening. We've got online services. We've got social media. So the expansion, the way that mediums are able to now connect with the outside world is huge and vast to what it once was. So I feel that the mindsets of generations differ, because we've got our older, well-respected mediums that have put in all of the work and put in all of the ethos and put in all of the effort, and some have taught us, okay, who work in a very different way to how mediums are nowadays. It's sad to see that the numbers in our churches are dwindling, and I feel that that's because we've got so many other platforms that have opened up here that people can now sit within the comfort of their own homes and join an online divine service. They don't have to go out in the rain. They don't have to go out in the cold. They can watch it and access it from home. And but that being said, there's also a plus point to that, because you've got people that couldn't get to churches, whether that be, you know, they've got an illness, whether or not, you know, they've they just can't leave their home for whatever reason that may be. So there's been a reach for those people. And also the online way has also brought people into churches, centres, Zoom rooms that wouldn't necessarily have wanted to have stepped foot through a church door for the fear of getting up midway through a demonstration of mediumship and leaving, where they can just click exit or end and leave virtually. But I would like to see everybody kind of like really coming together and supporting one another in the best way that they can to allow spiritualism or mediumship to evolve organically the way that it now is.
Yeah.
Nice. So, Bill, with your work, I know you've worked across the pond as well, so you are international, darling. soon to be global. So you can let us know, Bill, where you have worked and abroad, and has it differed? Because I'm always interested in how UK mediumship differs to Australian mediumship versus American mediumship. So let us know where other places you have worked, and if you felt there's been any difference.
Yeah, massive. I think we are really lucky that I say we. I'm referring to yourself and myself, David, from the UK. We are really lucky that we live within a country where it has evolved massively, and without it sounding pompous, I think that the UK have produced some phenomenal mediums because the resources have been there.
Yeah.
There is always going to be a slight divide when you're traveling overseas because it's not as widely known or respected. Glenda, I can use you as an example. You know, I know that you said in Australia there's very few spiritualist setups with regards to churches or centres. So a lot of what you've had to do with your own growth and development has been via the virtual platform, or indeed you've had to jump on a plane and you've had to travel in order to expand with your own in development. I've travelled over to Austria recently, and I'm back over there next week, in fact, where I've been really fortunate to teach and demonstrate. Now, for me, that was a massive push from Spirit, because I've travelled to a country where I don't converse their language. So for me to be able to link with Spirit and deliver a message, I'm not only trusting Spirit, but I'm also placing a sense of trust with my interpreter. And where I would normally be quite fast paced when I'm delivering my mediumship, everything is fluid, I'm going and I'm talking as quick as this as I'm starting to work, I'm then having to stop. I'm then having to pause. I'm then having to have that information relayed by a translator, and then having to wait for the recipient to then converse back to the translator back to me, before I can then go to Spirit, right, let's move forward and give something different. So that's been a huge learning curve, which I'm really grateful for, because, as I said, we don't want to become complacent. And then to be able to teach our own understandings and our own awareness. And I have to say that my experience with the Austrian students so far is that they are somewhat more humbled, and they feel very privileged that they have a UK medium travelling to their country to develop them, because again, there's not a lot of setups as we have here within the UK. So they really don't take for granted, like our students do here within the UK, okay, they really don't take for granted what it is that they're actively being involved in and being taught with. Look, it's easier, isn't it? We can jump online, we can join open awareness circles, we can do free Zoom sessions, we can go to a local church or a centre, we can go to a development circle that's set up privately. There's so much more accessibility. I found just recently, as I say, over in Austria, that there's not a lot of that. So they really, really embrace every single minute that they get to spend with you. And then I've demonstrated over in Ireland also. Look, only a quick flight over the water, but again, a very different take and a very different perspective on it. People are becoming a lot more conscious and they are becoming a lot more aware. But when you've got a dominance of religion that sits within a country as well, not everybody wants to publicise the fact that they're going to see a psychic medium from the UK, because it goes against the ethos and the morals of the religious aspects that they've been brought up in within their personal lives.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Interesting. Very. So did you see any leprechauns?
No, I didn't. I saw a few witches, a few banshees, but let's not go there.
I always thought the Irish were really open to this sort of thing. Like they really, because I remember, really, because I know I did meet a young man from Ireland that came over to Upper Finlay College. He was really open. And I was listening to a podcast with a lady that her parents were from Ireland. She said that they were quite open to it. So that's interesting.
I think it would depend on location as well. So, you know, the further out you go, where you go into the more remoter parts of Ireland, you've still got a very close sense of community when you're, for example, I visited the West and, you know, it is quite remote and, you know, there is a dominance of everybody goes to church and they go to mass on a Sunday morning. And that's absolutely fine because that's people's beliefs and I would never want to infringe upon that. So I feel that if you, let's say, for example, let's take Dublin. Okay, Dublin is pretty much like London. It's so diverse. It's alive. It's beaming with people from all different walks of life and cultures. So that would be a lot more open and receptive, as well as I would suppose Northern Ireland as well, because I see a lot of mediums that have worked the Northern Ireland circuit. So it's well received there. I just feel that sometimes locations or locality of specific areas can be a little bit challenging just because, you know, it's something new, it's something different. It's never happened there before. So there you go.
I think it's going to do with the old school mindset as well. And I think nowadays people are probably more open. But in my grandparents' generation, both my grandparents were Irish Catholic from Dublin,
right?
And they were very strict. So they did the church coach trips to Lourdes and all those things. So it's very, very, very strict. And so in my household, this was never talked about because the religion dictated that you don't believe in that. And I always say, if you're good, you go upstairs. If you're bad, you go downstairs. That's what I heard as a kid, and going to Catholic school as well. So, but I do think nowadays, I think the Irish people in my family, they are more open to this. And I've read for them. They've come to me for advice and things. But I think if you go back a generation, I just think it's slightly different because it was stricter. Yeah. When I think it's probably opened up a bit more.
Yeah. But, the Irish people are lovely. And those that have come to the demonstrations that I've done there have been absolutely lovely. And they've been very welcoming and very receptive. So I'm looking forward to returning back over to Ireland later on this year as well.
Oh, how
And where else are you
wonderful.
going, Bill? So that's going to be one of my
Yeah,
questions as
where?
well. So if you look at the future of your mediumship, where do you want to take it, whether that be location wise or just development wise?
I'm happy to go wherever spirit want to place me, David.
Oh, there you go.
I reckon you pair should go up to Scotland, visit Casa, and can do a little.
Well,
I'd
funny
love
you
to go
should
north.
say that. I've got a little bit of something going on in the background with regards to trying to get to Scotland at some point next year. So watch this space.
Oh,
Oh, that's
exciting,
Mhm.
that
exciting.
sounds exciting. Oh,
Okay.
might have to save up my money and come over again.
That'd be awesome.
Oh God, the band's back together.
Just Scotland's one place I've never been. I've never been to Scotland at all. So I do want to head up that way at some point as well.
Yeah.
Oh, exciting.
Oh, you'll have
Glenn, should we cut-
your little tour guide, Kazza up there. She'll take you wherever you need to go.
So, Glenn, should we come to our two standard questions that we're going to ask all of our guests?
I've missed one question at the beginning to ask Bill. Now, this is a really serious question.
All right.
Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Do you believe pineapple belongs on pizza?
Yes.
Oh, no.
Love it.
Yes. We're going to have to keep score on this. That's one to me. I believe that pineapple does belong on pizza.
Lush.
I had to throw in something different there. So now,
right.
I wanted to ask one more thing. What words of wisdom would you offer to those just starting on the mediumship journey? Forgot to ask you this one.
What words of wisdom?
Yeah.
I would just basically say that it is a long process. It's a long process. If you're coming into mediumship with a pure heart, a pure soul, with the intent to be able to continuously unite the two worlds, trust and understand that this isn't something that you're going to do for 5 minutes. This is long term. You're signing up to this for life, basically. So first of all, be aware of that and be very conscious of that. When you're first coming into this, it's not always going to be easy. It's going to be a lengthy process with regards to your own awareness and your own understandings. You're going to make mistakes. You're not going to get it right. You're going to feel as though you're not as good as somebody else. Do not measure your qualities and your values against other individuals, because at the end of the day, you are your own individual, unique self. Yes, watch other mediums, because that is an absolutely fantastic platform of learning. If you see something that another medium is maybe using within their own demonstration and you like it, add it into your pot and mix it up and come up with your own concoction. Never try to emulate another individual, because it's never going to work. Stand true, stand authentic, trust the process, find your tribe, find the correct mentors that will work for you. Be open, be aware, understand that you're going to be in situations where you will be surrounded by other spiritual individuals that are going to have a fantastic smile on their face and a huge, great big knife hidden behind their back. Be conscious of who you mix and spend your time with, and who you are endorsing as a good medium to work with. But most of all, let the purity of your soul and the purity of spirit drive and guide you with the intention of where you need to be.
Oh, I love that.
Great advice.
Absolutely. It ticks every box.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Super duper.
Thank you for that beautiful advice for anyone that was wanting to take that on, anyone starting their journey, or if you've even been a medium for a long time. Another thing to take on board.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to approach other mediums with regards to guidance and advice. I'm always happy to answer anybody's questions if there's something that they're stuck on, or they're finding a bit challenging. They can always reach out to me. I'm quite happy to help and support in whatever way I can. But don't think that all mediums are the same. Because not everybody will respond to any questions that you have. I learnt that the hard way. I reached out to mediums at the start of my own process, where I looked up to these individuals because, they were, some were high profile, and I didn't even so much as get an acknowledgement from some. And that can knock you as well, because you're thinking, why aren't they responding to me? Is it something is there something wrong with me? Is it something I'm saying? No, it's not. It's just that they're just wrapped up in their own little worlds more than anything else. So yeah, if anybody's out there that is struggling to understand something, or they just want a little bit of help and guidance, I'm quite happy to answer anybody's questions. Might not get back to you straight away, but I will do.
You are a very busy man. You work full time. This is what I can't wrap my head around. You work full time. You're a father of 5 children.
Yep.
You dem during the week. You dem on the weekend. You also teach mediumship as a mentor. How do you do all this? Like, what is your superpower?
Do you know what? Do you know what, Glenda? I just don't know. I don't know. I just, again, like I've said, I allow myself to be spirit-led. I think I've got used to the concept of waking between 5:30 a.m. and crawling back into bed just before midnight most nights. That's just me. That's just the mechanics. That's just how things roll and work for me at this moment in time. Do I need to take my foot off of the pedal? Do I need to give myself some time out? Yes, of course. We all need to be conscious of that. Am I looking forward to going on holiday this year? Hell yes. So that's what just keeps me going, is having something to look forward to, where I know that I'm going to get like 10 days where I can just go down to the beach and I can just lay on a sun lounger and I can look like Jabba the Hutt in a pair of shorts and just sip cold drinks and allow my body to naturally physically rest the way that it should do. But how do I do it? I don't know. Is a simple answer to that. But I allow spirit to lead me and place me where I need to be. So there we go.
We'll need that well-deserved rest.
Yes,
oh, yes.
Absolutely. We do. So our last 2 questions, are you ready for them? I've put them off. Here they are.
Oh, here we go.
How has mediumship contributed to your personal growth and healing journey? What insights or lessons have you gained through this work?
Right. Well, it's had a massive impact, a huge impact, in fact, on my life. I think the depths of change of circumstance have taught me patience and forgiveness. It's given me a removal and understanding of what I thought I wanted as opposed to what I needed. It's brought in new friendships. It's brought a deeper understanding of my own self-love and my own self-understanding. I've really learned to embrace what compassion means to me as an individual. It's given me a evaluation of a deeper understanding of life, per se, an understanding of life after life, an insight into the unseen world. I think on a daily basis, if I'm really honest, I thank Spirit for placing me into the position of circumstance that I have to be and not where I want to be. So I hope that answers your question, because I think that fits the mould, not only spiritually, but also personally as well.
No, it does. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you.
And our last question, Bill, to wrap up this podcast, is imagine today is your last day on earth. What 3 truths or lessons would you want to leave behind for the world based on your experiences and insights you've gained through mediumship and life?
First one, when someone shows you their true colours, believe them the first time.
Okay.
Second, lead by example, and don't be afraid of other people's views and opinions, because your life is your life and it's nobody else's. So live your life to the fullest, whether this be spiritually, personally, or it's the two linked together. Your life is your life. You are in complete and utter control. And should you choose to allow Spirit to be part of that, then you know that you've got a certain element of that that is being guided by those upstairs. And lastly, be kind. Be kind, be giving, but don't be a fool.
Yes.
That's my 3 things that I'd like to leave with everybody, should my time down here be called. But just remember, the pair of you, that should it be cut short, I'm still coming back and haunting you.
I love it. I love it. Oh, Bill,
I love those 3 things. Fabulous.
Yeah, that is awesome. And Bill, where can our followers find you if they would like a reading, if they would like to follow you? Where can they get in contact with you?
They can find me on social media, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, Bill Hughes Psychic Medium.
And we'll put all the links, the information in the show notes as well, so people can find you should they wish to. But Bill, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining Glenda and I on this very special episode, our first guest in the Spirit Lounge. It's been fabulous. So we are going to wrap it up there, people. However, if you'd like to hear a little bonus episode with Bill, then you'll find that as a separate episode in a new series which Glenda and I are creating called What's Getting on Your Goat? So it'll make sense once you hear it. And it just brings an extra human part into the episode, into the podcast as well as the spiritual stuff. But aside from that, once again, Bill, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much to Glenda, as always, for being my partner here in the Spirit Lounge. And we'll see you again in the next episode.
Thank you very much, guys. Bless you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us in the Spirit Lounge today. We hope you enjoyed the discussion.
Yes, and if there's a spiritual topic you'd like us to discuss, or if there's a spiritual question you'd like our input into, then please send those topics and questions to us at glenda-marie1@hotmail.com, and we will get to them as soon as possible.
Lastly, if you could like and share this podcast, as well as leaving us a comment or review about what you thought, then that would really help us out and we'd be very grateful.
We would indeed. But it's bye from me.
And it's bye from me.
Join us again soon in the Spirit Lounge.